I check in my email, I get this email from Kenya, and it's like, all right, Ross, if you stop the fucking emails and you get yourself here to Kenya, you have a job for the summer. Because I was like, I'll dig ditches, I'll do anything you want me to do. I just want to come work for you guys. And obviously they didn't know me. So they're like, who is this psychopath? But the last email got through to them. Then I was like, holy shit, what do I do? Because I just accepted this pretty hot shit internship. To say we had humble beginnings would be an understatement of the century. I mean, I started the company with $11,000, which is what I had in my bank account. I didn't know my ass from my elbow, never built a website. I was definitely not technical founder. I never started a company. I didn't know anything about business. So I was really making it up as I went along. When we became a publishing platform, I was actually posting on Craigslist in SF Bay and New York because I felt like those were probably the biggest Craigslist pages there were. And my posts read something like, I can't pay for your travel writing, but I want to publish it. I was kind of speaking to my former self, like the guy who just climbed a mountain in Peru. Like, if you have a story to tell or you have advice to give around travel, I want to hear your story. I want to publish it on Matador.
Welcome to the Winging It Travel podcast with me, James Hammond. Every Monday, I'll be joined by guests to talk about their travel stories, travel tips, backpacking advice, and so much more. Are you a backpacker, gap year student, or simply someone who loves to travel? Then this is the podcast for you, designed to inspire you to travel. There'll be stories to tell, tips to share, and experiences to inspire. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the 150th guest episode. What a moment. Thanks for joining on the journey of the Winging It Travel podcast. And today I've got a special episode for us, and I'm joined by Ross Borden, who is the founder and the CEO of the Matador Network. I'm sure you've seen those guys online, as they are the leading online travel publisher with over 140 million monthly video views. So I'm sure you've seen them on TikTok, Instagram, or on the website. It was named one of the Fast Company's 2024 most innovative companies for its groundbreaking use of AI to create the most accessible and accurate AI travel assistant, GuideGeek, and we talk about that in this episode. And we're going to hear about Ross's time living in Spain, Argentina, and Kenya, as well as a story about a man stranded in Tonga for a year and a half during COVID, and of course, the Matador Network. This is a cracking episode, a lot of travel stories, pivotal moments, and of course, the journey from Matador on top of a mountain in Peru to where it is today is very inspiring. So have a great episode. Thanks for tuning in to the first 150 guest episodes, and here's to the next 150. Here's Ross Borden. Ross, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. Can you tell the listeners where you're based right now?
Yeah, I'm based in Marin County, which is just on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. Matador's office is in Sausalito, which is the immediate other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, and I live about 10 minutes north of that in San Rafael. That's
a pretty cool walk, isn't it, over the bridge?
Yeah, it's great. We love it there, and it's a gorgeous place. It's actually funny. I didn't realize till we had our office there that a lot of the afternoons, especially, it's gale force winds. But when it's nice, when it's sunny and calm, it's the best place you could ever ask to work. So, and Marin in general is just an amazing place to live, amazing place to raise kids. So yeah, we're stoked.
San Fran's a bit weird for that wind and coldness, isn't it? In the height of summer, it can be a bit chilly, right?
Yeah, I always tell people to come to the Bay Area, especially if you're going to go to SF, versus Marin is blocked by a lot of that fog and wind by Mount Tamalpais. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to go to SF especially, you want to come in the fall, not the summer. And you see, all the time you see people I'm driving across the Golden Gate Bridge and I see tourists who clearly were oh, we're going to, California in July. It's going to I don't even need to pack a sweatshirt. And they're out there soaking wet, freezing, really crazy winds hitting them. And you're like, man, another victim. But yeah, the fall is the time to come.
Me and my friend were victims in the August. We went there, unaware and unplanned.
Yeah, August you can score on some good weather, but definitely less so in June, July for sure.
Fair enough. I'd like to delve into the archives of my guests of where the early initial travel memories or even an interest occurred? And where did you initially grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in LA when until sixth grade, and then I came up here to the Bay Area, and I went to high school in Marin at Redwood High School, public high school here in Marin. But my first kind of experience with traveling, I was lucky that my parents, especially my mom, was like, she grew up traveling as a kid.
Mm.
They actually had a sailboat and they were like sail all over the place and had a really cool upbringing, like traveling via the sailboat. So she had the bug. And then I went on some trips with my parents when I was really little. The most transformative of which was, I think I was in third grade and we went to Africa. We went to Kenya. And that just like completely blew my mind. I was already obsessed with wildlife and animals. And then like after that trip, I was just obsessed with Africa. I was like, loved the people of Africa, the landscapes, the animals, like everything about Africa, like really fascinated me. And that really opened up my obsession with travel at a, very young age, third grade. And then, as I traveled, obviously, like with my family when I was little here and there. But then when I started to get into college, I studied abroad in Madrid, and we like befriended this travel agent, this Argentine travel agent, who was just cool as shit. And this is like, you got to remember, this is 2001. The OTAs had launched in like whatever, the mid 90s. So you could go book your own flights and tickets, but most people, especially if you're like a college kid trying to get good deals, would go to like actually physically walk into a travel agency in a place like Madrid, and they would have like, oh, we got specials to Budapest, or these cheap deals in hostels in Rome, or whatever it was, and these like little packages. And it was, I think, sort of another form of mind blowing when, after growing up in the US where everything is just so far to get to a different country, living in Europe, and you're like, holy shit, we could just get on a train and be like, we could be there, by this afternoon in a whole other country. And this guy, his business was pretty slow, I think. And so we're like, Juan, what if we brought you like way more customers, like way more? Because we go to school with all these kids from the US, they all want to travel. And he is basically like, I would just give you guys free trips. And so we went and like rounded up our entire school, and like, we're just hyping Juan. We're like, Juan's got the best deals in town. Like, and we would just, his office, his little office would be full of kids, like basically waiting in line to plan their stuff. And we would just be hanging out, shooting the shit. And finally everyone was gone. And he'd be like, guys, where are we going? Like, he loved us because we like completely changed his business. So we basically were like flying and training our way all over Europe, basically for free, for a lot of that time in Madrid. And then I had found out that my mom had a friend who had these four brothers, if you can follow this. And the four brothers are in Kenya, and two of them ran a wildlife reserve called Barana, which is still around. It's amazing high-end wildlife conservancy and hotel. And then the other two ran this a farm where they're building greenhouses for flowers. They had sheep, cattle, all kinds of stuff. And it's a gorgeous place on the foothills of Mount Kenya. And I like peppered these people with emails, like, and it was kind of like shouting into the dark because no one ever got back to me. So I was like, I'd given up. I'd sent them like 24 emails, and I was like, all right, these people hate me, or they're not getting the emails or whatever. And I had like, figured out an internship in like investment banking or something crazy in California. And I was going home. It was our last trip in Madrid. I think we were actually in Budapest, and we were at the internet cafe, as you did back then.
Yeah.
I check in my email. I get this email from Kenya, and it's like, all right, Ross, if you stop the fucking emails, you have a job, and you get yourself here to Kenya, you have a job for the summer. Because I was like, I'll dig ditches. I'll do anything you want me to do. I just want to come work for you guys. And obviously they didn't know me. So they're like, who is this psychopath? But the last email got through to them. And then I was like, holy shit, what do I do? Because I just accepted this pretty like hot shit internship at this like, amazing company that whatever, it's probably wasn't my style, but given how things turned out. But, it was like I had really gone the lengths to get this internship, and I had to tell them, look, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to live in Kenya for the summer. Like, I'm not coming. That guy never talked to me again, who had helped me, break through at that investment bank.
Right.
But I went to Kenya. I started a trust for the African primary schools that the local kids would go to. It's very rural, like literally in the middle of nowhere, like sometimes roads, sometimes no roads. And then in my free time, I was just hitchhiking all over East Africa by myself. So really like leaned in. That year was like very transformative, leaned into, studying abroad, traveling every weekend, and then going to Kenya for the summer. And so I was gone for the US for, over a year. And that was like, then it really jump started kind of like my obsession with travel.
Yeah, I was then going to say that year, because so many different experiences in that must have kicked off in your mind. I know you had an interest in travel, but there must have been something else in there where you think, oh, do you know what? Maybe I could do it in the future as a job or as a career or something related to it, right? Because you took that chance in Kenya, you went there, done some travel. So what was your thinking post Kenya? Because you must be thinking, oh, do I go back or where do I go next?
I was one of those people that like, I think like a lot of people, especially in the US, I think other cultures, sometimes you start to specialize in what you think you're going to do professionally a lot earlier in life. But like a lot of kids coming out of college, I was still like, shouldn't I know by now? Like, I know what I'm interested in, but that doesn't mean that this is going to be my job or it's going to be like a feasible career. So that I was still in the freak out mode of like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And then I think because of that, because I didn't have a clear path, I went right into a year where I think with some of the homies from Spain, we were all like, we want to travel more before we hit like this full corporate world.
Yeah.
And so we're like, let's just like let's move home, live at home, respectively, wherever, my from Kansas, a couple of friends in the Bay Area, save money. I think most of us worked like construction jobs and then saved up money. And the plan was to go climb mountains in South America. And so that's what we did. Like I was total like focused on saving money, as a lot of people do before they're going to go on a big trip kind of around the world. Ours was like plenty to do in South America, Latin America, climbing mountains, camping. And then we went, we finally booked the trip, which was like extremely exciting. This is all pre-Matador.
Yeah.
But this is before I was going to I think I graduated college in 2003. So this is like 2004, 2005, down there. And we were so committed to saving money. Like we didn't want to stay in hostels. We want to stay on the side of the road or like find a piece of land. Cause we had tents, we had stoves, we didn't need anyone, that was kind of our sort of attitude about things. Like we're like, we would go into the guiding shop in Arequipa, Peru, and like squeeze them for as much information as we could. And then we're like, we just self-guide this shit. And we would just go climb the mountain on our own. And it was on that trip. In fact, it was actually on a volcano called Vulcan Misty outside of Arequipa that we first started talking about, like, where is the global community of travel storytellers like us? Where do we go and share these photos and these stories? Because like for us, again, back to the internet cafe, right? Like we would come off one of these mountains and we're like, holy shit, we ran out of water and it was fucking crazy. And, almost died, but it was so awesome. And we went through this storm and we were getting snowed on. And like, we had all these crazy stories. And then like, this is pre-blogs, again, pre-Facebook. Yeah. There was no outlet, right?
Yeah,
and so what we were doing is like, we were sending mass emails to our friends and family back home being like, just got off the mountain in Arequipa, Peru, and writing this like long ass email. And all of our friends who had entered the corporate world right out of college were like, dying, living vicariously through us because they were like in a cubicle and we were just living our dreams in South America. So that's when the conversation about like what Matador would become began. And that's obviously, at that point I was like full throttle obsessed with travel.
Okay, and I've got a quick question before we delve into Matador and South America a little bit. Saving money, right? I do remember back in those days, I was saving money probably from 2007 and 8 for my trip in 2013, right? During university, etc. Do you think it's harder nowadays to save money as a casual temp job because of the cost of living to save for a trip like that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I cannot freaking believe how expensive just normal life, groceries, walk out the door, you just spend $100. You don't even know where it went. You say it's so crazy how expensive stuff is. We have a game at my house. I go, all right, guys, I got 4 avocados, one thing of dozen eggs, some bananas, and and it's like $74. It's so insane. So I don't know. And I think I probably live in one of the worst of the worst in terms of those kinds of everyday costs in Northern California. But I think kind of wherever you live, whether it's inflation or just like the corporate greed of just everything getting more expensive, I just think it's really, really hard to be, you've got to sort of like always be alert to like saving money any possible way you can. The thing that has not changed, however, is if you can save money moving to another place, I'm always blown away by how cheap other places in the world are.
Yeah.
And not just like Thailand or Vietnam, but like, places like Mexico or Spain or, like the purchasing power you have with US dollars in other parts of the world is insane. And I think one thing that people are doing post COVID, which is like this like remote, work from anywhere lifestyle, is that and I certainly have team members on Matador's team who do this. Either they're from that country or they moved to that country as an expat and they're making US dollars every month. And they're kind of like living like a king or a queen in these different countries because they have, a really significant income, or even just if they're a part-time team member, they're just getting some US dollars and it just lasts them so much longer. So I think that opportunity still exists. The opportunity of like buckling down and saving money in the US, I agree with you, is very difficult.
Yeah, I think if you can work abroad and earn US dollar and that's your income to save for a travel trip, go to Mexico or Spain. Like we went to Portugal and Spain last year. We went to also Switzerland and Austria, right? Central Europe is crazy. That is a different level. But Portugal, Spain is doable. You get like €1 coffees. Accommodation is super reasonable. So there are places in the world where you are next door to an expensive country, but it can happen because you're in a fairly cheap country compared to, I don't know, like Switzerland, Spain is polar opposites in my opinion. It's quite interesting how it works that way. And North America, if you need to be on PST, Pacific Standard Time, just go down to Mexico.
Yeah. We did on that same trip where we were in climbing mountains and stuff. We climbed Aconcagua and we came down from Aconcagua, this big mountain that almost straddles the frontera, like the border between Chile and Argentina. And so we went up into the mountain from the Chile side, Chile was like, it was cheap-ish, but it was not that cheap for us coming from Peru and some of the other places that we'd been. Then we come down into Argentina and we're like, wow, this place is insane, because they were on the heels of the last or like 4 financial crises ago from when they're in now. And we just couldn't believe how great the wine was, the baby beef steak that was like this tall, like fillets, and a bottle of wine was $1 for a great bottle of wine. And like, we were then, I think we each had about $6,000 left because we'd been so thrifty and like living in tents and just total dirtbag lifestyle up until then. We moved into an apartment with these French girls who luckily would have us. I think $6,000 lasted me like an additional 8 or 9 months, just living it up in Buenos Aires. Going out every night, no job. We tried to teach English. That was like the sort of the comedy of like, you're like, oh, that's why it's so cheap, because like it's literally impossible to make money. and like what you make is just like, it's like negligible. So, yeah, we tried to be camareros. We tried to be waiters at this like thing that would like this restaurant that would turn into a nightclub at night, and the shifts were like 12 hours long, and you make like $20 or $15. I'm like, fuck this. This is no, let's just forget about the idea of trying to stay here and just enjoy it while it lasts and then go home, because there was no possibility of making any money there. So yeah, but that's another great place I would highly recommend. It's cheaper than Portugal or Spain. Sadly for the Argentine people, they've just been so poorly represented. We'll see if Malay is going to do anything differently there. But right now I know it's extremely cheap and just like an extremely high quality life down there with great food, great, cities, culture, outdoors. So that's another place that you can kind of like, if you could set up shop there as an expat working for a US or a different company, like that would be pretty massive. I think you'd be doing pretty well.
It's funny you say $6,000. That's what I had for my 6-month trip in 2013, and it lasted, right? And people might be listening right now going, 6,000? That was pounds, so what's that, $8,000 US? I think that was like not doing too many cheapo things. It was like, medium living, I'd say. Some hostels, some tours, but living up a little bit in Australia and New Zealand. So it is possible, but now it seems, compared to my year-long trip last year, that those days, not over, but it's much more difficult to make it work.
Yeah, I think it's more difficult. And, if you make one false step into Switzerland or something, it could like wipe out half of your budget or something. So I think that's what it really boils down to, is like the countries you choose to travel to, and then like how you live in those countries. I think I've always thought like the faster you're moving, the more money you're spending.
100%.
When we founded Matador, we really always talked about like slow travel. And that still is, I think, one of the keys to saving money. If you can like take your time, you don't have to live in a tent like we were, but if you can take your time and find, the homestay or something like that, which is like, almost free. And then you get a cultural interaction as well, work on the language or whatever it is. But if you're like always trying to hit a bunch of different countries and you're always on the move and you don't have time to like settle in and buy groceries and find a really cheap place to live, you're just naturally going to blow through a budget a lot faster.
Yeah. And I love your enthusiasm to make it work. I think a lot of people think they can make it work, but don't do the right things, right? But you're staying in tents, trying to work 12-hour shifts. But these sort of things are, you find out the hardcore people who travel, who want to make it last. They're the things that people do, right?
Yeah.
But it's difficult in Switzerland, like you say. So you mentioned Matador. So I want to touch on where the idea come from, because you were hiking in South America. So obviously you had a bit of a epiphany or an idea. So how did Matador come into your mind? And what were you thinking at that time of what it could be?
Yeah, I didn't really know, but it was definitely on that volcano where we had just sort of had a crazy, harrowing day to get to camp, and we were all dead tired. And as happened to us a couple times, we like had this beautiful sunset and this warm wind, and we're like, wow, those clouds are moving up the valley like pretty fast. And then 5 seconds later, we're like, grab the tent, and it's like hailing on us and snowing on us, and the tents blowing away. So we had one of these like crazy experiences. And I think we were just like, where do we share this? That sort of idea of like, we want to share this story with our friends, with family, with maybe people that are like us, who love this like adventure shit as much as we do. But we didn't have an outlet. So that was the original idea, was sort of like a global campfire of storytellers and travel, both for entertaining and sort of like narrative stories, as well as like advice, where to go and what to do, best surf breaks, like the standard stuff that we started publishing, sort of secret backpackers guides. And we were backpackers. And a lot of people, ask me like, why Matador? And because we, over the years, especially, we've like really leaned into like diversity, making travel more diverse, sustainability, having like Leaving No Trace. We have a big partnership with Leave No Trace. I think to most people have a really like positive take on travel, the world. And the world is by and large a very safe place. Almost 100% of people are good and mean you no harm. But I think, our tagline is still travel fearlessly, because we felt that the best travel experiences that we all had collectively had all happened as the result of some kind of risk taking. And not necessarily like ice climbing with no ropes, but more like taking a chance on someone that we just met who's like, I'm going to go to a party in the favela, like jump on the back of this dirt bike. And we're like, okay, hope this works out. And it's like the best night of anyone's life. So, I think that idea was the name. It was like taking risks, getting out of your comfort zone. I studied Hemingway and read all his books in Spain. And I went as part of that class to a couple bullfights. And I'm not pro bullfights, because it's just, half the time you're like, someone just calling the sniper for this poor bull. Like, it's like pretty brutal sport. But that was just the name. That was the brand and the name that we thought of. And that's what stuck, and people always remembered it. So yeah, it started on that volcano in Peru and kind of evolved into the network, which is our network of contributors, writers, photographers, filmmakers, and now especially, video creators that kind of fuel Matadors every day, whether it's like our city guides, our feature destination guides, or the content that you see on our social channels, which are now followed by about 15 million people. That is all created by our network of creators globally.
I would imagine people listening right now have probably definitely heard of you, right? I think we are all pretty aware of what you guys do, and you do send the right message. I think it's pretty important that you send the fearless message, that people are, on the whole, okay around the world, right? They're nice people to probably help you out.
I'm constantly amazed at like how many people, especially affluent, Americans, people I know personally, who like, I know they have plenty of money to travel, and they don't. It just blows my mind.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, they only go to Mexico, or they only go, the thought of going to a developing country, the thought of going to Africa, the thought of going to Southeast Asia is so risky to them. And I'm like, what exactly do you think? Like, I think ever since 9/11, and again recently, I tell people, I'm going here, I'm taking my kid to South Africa, whatever. They go, do you think now is really the best time to go to Africa? I'm like, yeah, I do. I think it's like good a time as any.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it always blows my mind how many people totally, like, money's not the problem. It's just that they think the world is this like profoundly dangerous place, and it's not. It's total bullshit. It's like invented part of their imagination. So yeah, we're trying to defeat that misconception every chance we get.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you're against the mainstream, right? So if those affluent people are like reading the news or watching the news or watching the news from social media every day, which they've been told is a dangerous place, then they're going to think that, aren't they? I guess it's going to take a real big change of their mindset to go to somewhere completely off grid for them, or left field.
Yep, no doubt. And you got to sort of tune out the media. And I've even, found myself, like, I started going to Colombia about 20 years ago, and that the media, movies, everything told me Colombia, profoundly dangerous, kidnappings, shootouts in the street. And I remember when we first landed in Bogota, my friend and I were like, we're being very vigilant. And then everyone was like, it was before the real mainstream Western tourism had hit Colombia. Now it's like, total hotspot. But I think a lot of Colombians were like curious about it. So like, where son Americanos? And they'd be like, why here? What are you guys doing here? And then they would just go out of their way to be like, do you guys need help? Do you need advice? Do you need directions? You know where you're going? Not in like this place is dangerous way, just like they wanted to be helpful. And that really opened my eyes to like, you really never know what a place is going to be like and what a people are going to be like until you go there yourself. And if you make these misconceptions of like, that place is not for me, I know what those people are like, or I know that place is dangerous or whatever, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're probably wrong. And I've proven that over and over and over again. I've traveled pretty extensively now through Saudi, for instance. Incredible people, super friendly,
Oh yeah.
zero anti-Americanism in Saudi. And for some reason, because of the media and my preconceived notions about it, I didn't think they were going to be as friendly as they were. And so, I came home, and that was another place. Do you really think it's the best time? Yeah, I'm interested. I want to check it out. I want to see what it's really like. And it was amazing. So, I think we always need to check ourselves and what we think we know about places, because until you actually go yourself, you really shouldn't judge anyone or their country, because you don't know.
Totally agree. Currently on my YouTube channel, I'm doing Lebanon, right? So Lebanon's in the news because of obvious reasons. Now,
Yeah.
I've had some messages this week from Lebanese saying like, thanks for putting this video up, because it is a complex country. There is different factions within it. There's obviously things in the news right now which probably paints it in a bad light. But my time there was absolutely brilliant. The people were amazing in places that you would think or are told are quite dangerous or anti-Western, I guess is a phrase you could use. But unbelievable country, people were amazing. And I think it's important that, especially you guys, because you have a bigger reach, but you could get that message out there to say, do you know what, you can go and visit and it should be okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I walk down streets in San Francisco sometimes. I'm like, this is dangerous. This is more dangerous than anything I saw in the Middle East or Africa. Like it's crazy how backwards it is with some of this stuff.
Yeah, I use that for London as my example for that. London can be quite dangerous, I think, in certain streets. Hey, yeah, just a quick one. I just want to say there are many ways to support this podcast. You can buy me a coffee and help support the podcast with $5. Or you can go to my merch store with the affiliate link with TeePublic, where there's plenty of merch available to buy, such as t-shirts, jumpers, hoodies, and also some children's clothing. Thirdly, which is free, you can also rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or Good Pods. Also, you can find me on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Simply just search for Winging It Travel Podcast, and you'll find me displaying all my social media content for traveling, podcast, and other stuff. Thank you. My question at the early days, and how did you actually get your content out there for Matador? Like, did you create obviously a website, you start blogging? Is that the route that you went down originally?
Yeah. So, to say we had humble beginnings would be an understatement of the century. I started the company with $11,000, which is what I had in my bank account. I was on unemployment from being laid off at a job I hated in the software industry. When I got home from that trip in South America, I didn't know my ass from my elbow. I never built a website. I was definitely not technical founder. I never started a company. I didn't know anything about business. So I was really making it up as I went along. And the first thing that we did, it was started as kind of like a social network for travelers. And then, what we did after that is when we became a publishing platform, I was actually posting on Craigslist in SF Bay and New York, because I felt like those were probably the biggest Craigslist pages there were. And my posts read something like, I can't pay for your travel writing, but I want to publish it. So I was kind of like speaking to my former self, like the guy who just climbed a mountain in Peru, if you have a story to tell or you have advice to give around travel, I want to hear your story. I want to publish it on Matador. And then that actually gained more traction than the social network for travelers. But the social network, that became the network because it was this network of creators. So it's, we have evolved consistently over time. Now we have the hottest AI product on the scene for travel called GuideGeek, and that's an open AI project that you can access through WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger and our website. So I would say we're continuing in that evolution of how do we take what we have, that things that we're good at, and how do we capitalize on what's happening right now in culture, technology, whatever. So, we started with articles. We started publishing and not even, paying writers. People who just wanted to be published. Then we started paying writers. Then we ramped up and started building social following. Then we moved into video and mobile. Then, we're doing now 150 million organic video views a month. Now we were kind of a first mover in the AI revolution, which I really think is going to shatter the entire travel industry and put it back together with completely new winners and incumbents either getting stronger or getting really hurt by the disruption and the disruptive power of Gen AI. So we have a sort of a leading Gen AI product now with GuideGeek. And so we're kind of like reacting to our environment and then tweaking our model, or not necessarily like pivoting away from something, but just like kind of leaning into new things, starting new projects. We built a really talented, adaptable team. And so, yeah, just like growing the business and doing as much as we can as fast as we can.
And before I get to my AI questions, how important was the social media in the early days? Did you realize at the time, oh, this could be a bit of a game changer with, posting content like videos, photographs, even captions to them?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that it was the game changer for us, because it was what was going to get our name out there. It was what was going to drive traffic. It was what was going to, it has become the venue that all the, our core business is branded content, advertising, custom programs, influencer programs, custom video, where we're shooting a body of different 5 or 6 videos for a specific campaign or program. Then we're turning around and we're saying to the brand, look, not only are these going to be the best videos you've ever done, but they're going to get 10 million views across Matador's social channels. So we knew it was kind of everything. And I think that was the hockey stick moment, was when the iPhone came out, or the iPhone started to get better and Facebook started really leaning into mobile video. It was still square. It wasn't vertical video yet. That's now been sort of taken over the internet as the format because of TikTok and obviously Reels. But yeah, we recognized very early on, and I think a lot of our competitors like Nat Geo and Condé Nast and those guys were still all stuck in the magazine world. They're obsessed with screw the internet. We've got our glossy magazine where we can sell a single page ad for 50 grand. And that's what they wanted to do. They didn't want it to adapt. And we were more than happy to sort of leapfrog ahead of them on the digital side and just get like really, really good at that. And that's, continued to pay off for us.
Okay. And one of the stories you've had on my notes here is the story of the Tongan whale watcher guide who got stuck in COVID. Can you tell a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so this is near and dear to me because so that's called a Matador original. So what James is talking about is a mini documentary that we shoot with our own budget. And so as Matador has become more profitable over the years, we have our own money that we can self-fund. So we're not just shooting like auto brands and destinations and airline programs. We are equal parts, or we're trying to be equal parts, funding our own documentaries that we think are interesting, featuring people that we think are compelling, and we call those Matador originals. So if you go to matadornetwork.com, you scroll down, you can see this long gallery slider of all of our original films. We have episodic shows and talent-driven shows as well. So this one was kind of a standalone. We went there first it's called the Blue Lagoon. What you do there is go swim with the whales. That's why people go to the Blue Lagoon. You fly into Vavau and then you take a 45-minute boat. These guys pick you up. And it's these 3 brothers. And they're just like salt of the earth, amazing people. I know it's run by them and their family. Their dad was kind of like the founder of the resort. And we met their dad last time. And then since during the COVID period, their dad passed away. And their mom lives in Vavau and sort of in town. And 2 of the brothers travel. And they had like a rough year. They had COVID shut down their business for a couple of years. Then I don't know if you remember the underwater explosion that swamped Tonga with like a tsunami. So their entire resort was like completely thrashed, like washed away just down to the studs. So they had to like rebuild their resort. They were trying to find work abroad, and Henry, who's the youngest brother, amazing guy, and just one of these people that like, you can tell he's grown up in the island. Like the guy is like in tune with nature. Like he's dialed in. Both with like how he reacts and how the whales react to him when they get really close, and also just like just flies up a tree, hacks some coconuts down. Like he's handy with the spear gun. He can hold his breath for minutes and minutes while swimming super deep to go get a fish. Like he's an incredible nature guy, and he basically was he wasn't stuck. I think it was kind of by choice. Like he could have like escaped to the town, but he basically lived alone for 2 years or 2.5 years on this very remote island with almost no visitors. He was joking that he had become friends with like the pigs, and he would talk to them and they would talk to him. Like imagine like being completely alone for that long. And so he didn't go crazy. He actually probably just got like more dialed into Mother Nature. But it's kind of a story about that period in his life, and more broadly a story of the Blue Lagoon and why, if you have ever dreamt of swimming with humpbacks, which I can tell you, I had high expectations, and it like blew my fucking mind, this experience. Like, and I've been to every safari all over the place. I had incredible wildlife encounters from Alaska to South Africa and a lot of places in between. But being in the water a couple feet away from a 60,000 pound animal that could just absolutely smoke you in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And its calf, because they're there in the warm water because the calves are nursing and they're drinking like 1,000 gallons of milk a day or something crazy like that. But watching that mother baby relationship and getting a front row seat and having the trust of these animals is just like the most insane. I mean, they swim by and look at you with that big ass eye, and you literally feel their intelligence. You feel like it's like being sized up by like an alien life form, because you can't talk to it, you can't communicate, but they are looking right in your freaking eye and you're looking at them. I mean, it's just like most incredible experience. So if you've ever dreamt of having that yourself, I would highly recommend the Blue Lagoon in Tonga, and go hang out and meet our guys there, because they're just amazing with the hospitality, the food program, and then obviously the nature and the whales.
The sheer thought of that huge animal right next to you is quite a scary thought. I know they're not going to attack you properly, but that being there, you feel how small you are, right?
Well, the guides, who are the three brothers, they're your guides when you go out there. They always say, like, now if the whales get very close, just don't move, because they know where you are in the water. Yeah. And and I've even seen it like on their pectoral fin, like they'll be doing like a stroke and they'll stop and like go around someone and then finish the stroke. Like, got it. They don't want to hit you, but the most dangerous thing you do is like moving around and changing your sort of like positioning. But yeah, I mean, when the mom comes up, you're like, whoa, is this safe? Whoa. It's like a nuclear submarine, going by you. Like insane.
And the intelligence, you can't imagine it, can you? You can't actually comprehend how intelligent they are. And it's quite rare because you see like some animals, you think they're just thick as shit, but whales, I think we all know, have got some sort of intelligence in there we just don't understand.
Oh yeah, insane. And they're talking to each other. They're they're doing their crazy like singing and talking to each. I mean, it's just like it's a completely out of this world experience.
Amazing creatures. Okay, let's go to. We're going to talk about Matador, but also want to talk about AI. You've obviously got GuideGeek going on with AI. How important is AI going to be to the travel industry, and how is it going to affect it or make it better going forward?
I think, as I said, I think it's going to revolutionize the entire travel industry top to bottom. And what I mean by that is what us in the travel industry who think about this stuff and have been sort of like working in this industry, they always call it a funnel, right? The funnel is going towards the booking. So it's like the high level inspiration and awareness, then price comparison, then booking, then to sort of see and do research. You're like, all right, I'm going to Barcelona. Where are we going to have dinner? Should we get reservations? What are we going to see? Some art. And then actually this sort of like on the go when you're there. That's another part of that's like at the bottom, like below the bottom of the funnel is like you're in Barcelona, like this city's massive. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea where you are. So how can AI help you get really fast answers to fast questions? And so we have seen GuideGeek eat that entire funnel, meaning people are like using it to explore very high level options like beach vacations that won't break the bank with kids within a 3-hour flight of LAX. Like, you know, that's maybe going to come back with some stuff that you hadn't even thought of. Then obviously price comparison, we connected to Skyscanner. So we have hundreds of thousands of people on there doing flight searches, hotel searches. We figured out how to do sort of Airbnbs and vacation rentals. Then the do and see research. All right, I'm going, you know, what else am I going to do? It's just like it's a conversational AI to get the best sort of high quality travel advice because it's read every review on the internet for hotels, for restaurants, watched every video. And then it's also based on Matador's content. We have like 100,000 articles and videos that it's based on as well.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like I said, about 20% of people of our overall users are also using it when they're in destination. So using it to get, you know, my kids are starving. I'm in this neighborhood of Barcelona. Like my wife is vegan. What are our best options? Bam, 2 seconds. It gives you the answer. So yeah, I think, you know, this thing is just in its infancy. We've been at it for about 15 months and we've just been like blown away by the engagement, people asking hundreds of questions, and then GuideGeek learning about those people so that they don't have to re-explain themselves, but they can just be like on the first shot for the next query. GuideGeek can be really, really helpful in terms of what that person might be interested in.
And they have access to all your content. That's incredible in terms of the product, right? So you could literally be, I don't know, you got a thought in your mind, a loose thought, scroll on Instagram, might see your post about Tonga and instantly go, oh, do you know what? Let's just ask a question. And that could literally funnel down right into booking a trip. I mean, it's like, it can't get any better, surely, than that.
Yeah, you know, we unleash this technology on meta platforms. Instead of we're like, do we build an app? Do we put it on our website? What are we going to do? And at the end of the day, we're like, the best thing to do is put this technology where people already are, which is on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and then, you know, we have a chatbot on our website. But that, you know, you don't have to register for GuideGeek. You don't have to download an app or update an app for GuideGeek. You just go to guidegeek.com and you just decide which QR code you want to scan to connect on WhatsApp, Instagram, or Facebook Messenger. And you just say hi. And once people say hi, you know, GuideGeek explains what it can do. And people are like, holy shit, no more going to Google. This is like everything I need right here.
I was then going to say, this sounds like a better Google.
Yeah, well, it will be. I mean, I think Google obviously still super important, including for travel research and advice. Sometimes if I'm going to make a big decision, I'll get the idea from GuideGeek. And then like, if I want to go a little deeper, or I want to actually book something, I'll go, you know, check it on Google. But with GPT-4, and who knows when GPT-5 is going to come out, probably this year, I would think.
Yeah.
It's just going to get better and better.
Sure.
And we're even also pinging Google Places to verify some of this stuff, because restaurants and bars go out of business from time to time, especially, you know, during and after COVID. So we will actually make recommendations to the traveler and then also ping Google Places in the background to make sure that all those places are still open, still in business. And so, yeah, I mean, the tool it's good now, but it's going to be lights out in a couple months.
Potential is huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
And it's awesome that you ping to Google, because how many times you get a recommendation, check Google, it's permanently closed. It could be a restaurant or a cafe, right? So that relieves that pressure as well. If you're in a city on the go and you got a recommendation, but you haven't actually checked it out, and then your guy go, oh, actually it's closed, but you can maybe go here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of best of both worlds.
Okay. And can you tell listeners about where people can find Matador and like websites, social medias and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. So matadornetwork.com is our website. We are at Matador Network on both TikTok, where we have about 2 million followers, Instagram, where we have 500,000 followers, Facebook, where you have a couple million followers. And then we also acquired a business called Visit Media Group. So just at Visit on TikTok, at Visit on Instagram. And that is the biggest page for travel on all of TikTok. I think we're at like 7.4 million followers there.
Wow.
So yeah, if you love travel content and it's got a little bit of a different vibe, a little more like wanderlusty, check out Visit, the brand, on Instagram and TikTok as well.
Okay, I'll put the links in the show notes. That sounds great as well. Amazing.
Cool.
I'm just going to finish the episode with some quick fire travel questions. It's a little feature. Normally your favorite things you've seen on your travels worldwide, just to finish off. It's travel question time. I'm going to start with your top 3 favorite countries.
Damn, so hard. Let's do Japan, Kenya, maybe South Africa. Sorry, Kenya. Japan, South Africa, and Spain. That's such a hard question. Okay. I actually asked the same thing. I say, if you had to live in 3 countries and only those 3 countries for the rest of your life, what would they be? So those would probably be mine. Okay.
And what about 3 countries you've not traveled to that would be next on your hit list?
India, top of the list. People who know me are like, how the fuck have you not been to India?
Yeah, you got to go.
Because I'm like, I'm dying to go to India. Let's see. Vietnam is top of my list. And then I will go with Ghana.
Wow. Okay. And 3 favorite cuisines worldwide, not including American.
Japanese, Mexican, and I hate to be cliche, but probably Italian.
Of course, yeah. Popular answer.
But yeah, I mean, I could live on Mexican food and Japanese food alone, but yeah, Italian would be a nice third.
Yeah. Okay. And what about if you could sit in one city in the world with a cup of coffee and watch the world go by, where are you going to sit?
I'd say Camps Bay, Cape Town. I love Cape Town. Although I also got love for the European watch the world go by and the piazzas and the plazas of Europe. So I love Madrid and really all those sort of Romance language EU cities. But yeah, I think Cape Town is very tough to beat in terms of a place to chill and drink a good cup of coffee.
Okay. And which country has the best coffee?
Ooh, that is tough. Costa Rica, amazing. Kenya, amazing. And then, I mean, everything in Japan is just like the highest quality.
Yeah, highest quality.
Like, maybe Japan. I don't know how close those beans were grown to where I was, but it was a phenomenal experience.
Okay. What about top 3 favorite mountains?
Top 3 favorite mountains. Vulcan Misty, where it all started for me with Matador. The Matterhorn, just because I love it. It's such an icon. I've never climbed it, but always wanted to. And then Mount Tamalpais, which is in Marin County where I live. And it's like what I look at every day, all day. And it is spiritual significance to me.
Okay. And maybe this is a bit harsh, but top 3 favorite peoples around the world that maybe been the nicest or kindest in each country.
Man, this is tough. Again, Japanese, just like so incredible, so reliable, so like every little thing they do is like so much effort and class and pride put into it. I love the Mexican people. They are, I think, one of the reasons Mexico is one of my favorite places is that it is. Wait, was Mexico on my list? Oh man, I really fucked up. Mexico should have been on my top 3. Yeah, but I love Mexican people, love everything they do. A huge fan. And then maybe let's go with the Spanish, because I just like, part of me just loves to just sit back and watch the Spaniards live. They really enjoy life. They got it down. They're also like hilarious without trying to be hilarious.
Yeah.
With some of their little mannerisms and like how they live life and how they don't give a fuck about certain things. And like, I just love that. So love the Spanish too.
Okay. A couple more questions. Which country do you think has been the best for your budget or the dollar that goes the furthest? Probably
Thailand, maybe Peru. Both very cheap. And like, if you go for cheap there, as I was when I was doing my dirtbag months in Peru, you can get almost to zero. So, yeah, I think those two are pretty winners. I've never been to Bolivia. Always wanted to go.
Cheap.
I've heard that is maybe even cheaper than Peru. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then for like a big cosmopolitan city and like really high quality everything for cheap, I'd say Buenos Aires, especially for me because I lived there and just got incredible mileage out of those experiences for pennies on the dollar. That was a good one for me.
Okay. And last question is going to be, you mentioned this a bit before, but if someone's listening right now is a bit scared or fearful of traveling abroad, especially to a new country or new culture, what 1 or 2 sentences can you give to give them the push to get out there and take a leap?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that I guess grab a friend. I think traveling with a friend is always less scary than traveling by yourself, but traveling by yourself might be the best experience for yourself. It might be the most transformative thing that you come back different, that changes you. So even if you're a solo traveler and you are scared of the world, I can say I have almost not intentionally, but I've knowingly put myself in so many situations that I thought were dangerous.
Yeah.
Over the years, I'm 43, so that's like, 30 years of traveling or something crazy like that. And almost no harm or malintent has ever found me. And so I always tell people, you couldn't die in a freaking terrorist attack if you tried. And I really stand by that. I think I think that you really need to go experience the world, and you don't want, whatever you do, you don't want to die or be old and not able to move around the world and have those regrets that you didn't see enough of the world. And also remember that especially if you're a solo traveler, remember that if you approach someone, there's a tiny, like almost a fraction of a fraction of a fraction percentage that they would do harm to you or do something shady to you. If someone approaches you, that fraction goes up quite a bit. So if you're looking for, if you're a traveler and you're like, I'm lost, you can always go ask someone, because like they're just a normal person on the street, and the chances of them being bad or giving you bad advice or sending you in the wrong direction is slim to none. But if someone said, hey, I got a deal for you, come over here, the chance, I'm not saying that person's bad, but the chance that they are just went up by a few percent. So, in general, my advice is if you're in a place where you're not comfortable, where you're lost, where you're whatever, you need help, just ask someone. They will try to help you. And the chances of them being a bad person are basically zero.
That's amazing. Never thought about that before. It's interesting. You flip that around. Yeah, Ross, it's been a great chat. A nice hour of travel wanderlust, a bit of Matador in there and some stories. It's been great. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me on, James.
Cheers, dude. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast episode today. If you've been inspired by today's chat and want to book some travel, if you head to the show notes, you'll see some affiliate links below which help support this podcast. You'll find Skyscanner to book your flight. You'll find booking.com to book that accommodation. Want to stay in a super cool hostel? You'll see Hostelworld down there too. You'll find Revolut to get your travel card sorted. Click the GigSky link to get your eSIM ready for your trip. And more importantly, you'll find Safety Wing Insurance to get that travel insurance for your trip. There are many more to check out, so when you click that link and book your product, a small commission goes towards me and the Winging It Travel podcast. Thank you in advance and enjoy your travels.